And now we are recording. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa and Internet World. Welcome in. This is the Thursday edition of the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on YouTube. You're watching us on Facebook and Twitter. Listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. We're going to have a beautiful Thursday. I hope you guys have had a great week. We want to thank our friend, Coach Jarris McIntyre, joining us on Monday to talk about Jameer Grimsley. If you missed that episode, you can jump back on the Monday episode, any of those previous locations I just mentioned. We appreciate Coach McIntyre joining us to highlight Jameer Grimsley. Of course, we want to encourage you to jump in and listen to all our Bama Central podcasts. Our friends Blue Collar Unplugged with Jacob Pickle, Matthew Gibson, and Blake Byler. My man Blake Byler dropping a great piece on Jaron Stevenson right there on BamaCentral.com. You want to get to know Alabama's newest early enrollee basketball player. You can do that right now right there on BamaCentral.com. And of course, all things Bama with Katie Wyndham and Blake Byler. Make sure you subscribe to both those podcasts as they're doing great work, bringing you everything that you need to know about the Alabama Crimson Tide. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do today? We're going to have a lot of fun. I want to talk about three or four different issues, 3 or 4 different subjects, and we encourage you to jump in on the comments. You can leave your comments, questions, queries, or complaints right there on the Facebook at Joe Gaither 6 or Instagram or Twitter at Joe Gaither 6 right there. So we encourage all the participation. Share the show, tell a friend about the show, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. All right, so let's get into it. I want to talk about yesterday's commitment, Alabama losing out on Demarcus Riddick, 5-star edge rusher from Clanton, Alabama, right there, Chilton County High School. My man Wyatt Fulton and myself making it down to Chilton County. Enjoyed the peach ice cream from the Peach Park. Did not enjoy the decision, but we'll get into that as well. I want to talk about PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck, the subject of the newest hit piece, the Big Ten coaches. Oh my gosh, the Big Ten cannot stay out of their way. How do you feel about anonymous players, anonymous sources coming out and begrudgingly talking about culture issues? We'll talk about Front Office Sports, their recent post. You can read about it yesterday. Their post, Front Office Sports, basically putting out a hit piece on PJ Fleck. And I'll get into kind of why I think that's a huge problem. Then, we're going to wrap it up. We've got a big weekend ahead of us with Alabama recruiting Crimson Tide Cookout. Will we get Edric Hill on board? Can we get KJ Bolden from Buford High School on board? So it's going to be a very big recruiting weekend for Alabama. The final recruiting weekend before Alabama fall camp opens. Yes, 7 days from today, we will be in front of Nick Saban, asking him all things quarterback related, and he's going to tell us absolutely nothing. But in 7 days, camp starts. And so we are right on the precipice of the 2023 season. So let's get right into it. Let's start with Demarcus Riddick. That sounds like a good place to start because that's the most Alabama connection. So there we go. Obviously, yesterday, you get some bad news. Demarcus Riddick flips his commitment from Georgia to Auburn. You can check out his commitment right there on the Bama Central YouTube page under the Joe Gaither Show playlist. We appreciate Clanton and Chilton County High School hosting us yesterday. A huge contingent of media watching his decision. I think he did a pretty good job keeping it close to the vest. Up until about 24 hours ahead of time, I was thinking that he was going to flip to Alabama, and right about 24 hours ahead of time, he announced, the whispers, the rumors, the great recruiting analyst Steve Wilfong, Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, all the guys who are really following the recruiting game kind of flipped their decision and flipped their prediction to Auburn. So we walked into Chilton County High School kind of feeling like it may not go Alabama's way. But it was interesting. It was very interesting. Demarcus Riddick, he obviously did the whole, it was his mother's birthday, so I'm going to give you a present. Mother, pull out your present. It's an Auburn Tigers shirt, yada, yada. Cute. We love it. Good for you. But he said some interesting things about Alabama. And then he said some interesting things about Georgia. And so we'll talk about that, and we'll get into what it means, where Alabama can pivot. Okay, so Demarcus Riddick, first off, he puts on the Auburn hat, and you can see that again on Bama Central's YouTube page. He puts on the Auburn hat, and essentially, does the hug with the mom and dad, and, they're all excited. Literally, the whole auditorium exploded. It sounds like lots of Auburn Tiger fans were on hand or were in the McKee Auditorium yesterday. So great. You have the post, like the euphoric moment, 30 seconds, and then he gets back on the microphone. He gets back on the microphone and says, yeah, I could have picked Alabama. And you guys know I almost picked Alabama. I would have picked Alabama, but it didn't feel like home. It didn't feel like the right fit. Auburn felt like home. And so he says he makes the right decision for himself. And, of course, we want all these recruits to make the best decisions for themselves. Alabama's not for everybody. Georgia's not for everybody. And Demarcus Riddick seemingly acknowledging that fact yesterday by saying, I could go to Georgia. He was committed last November. I could go to Georgia. Alabama wanted me, but I just want to go have fun in college. What? I mean, great. Everybody wants to have fun in college. I had fun in college. You probably had some fun in college. Everybody wants to have fun in college. You get away from mom and dad, and you find out who you are. You kind of get into some experiences, this, that, or the other. But is winning not fun? Demarcus Riddick is getting a quick path to the NFL, direct path to millions of dollars. Not fun. Is the Malmore Center? Do they need to upgrade the Malmore Athletic Center? No. It's just a strange excuse. Oh, I just want to have fun. I don't really care. Hugh Freeze made me feel like family. Hugh Freeze made me feel like family, and I just want to go to Auburn and help them rebuild something, and I want to have fun and enjoy my college time. Well, I think Kirby Smart and I think Nick Saban probably heard that yesterday and thought, well, good. Glad you picked Auburn because, we have fun in different ways in Tuscaloosa and in Athens. Our fun is in the work. Our fun is in the process. Our fun is in the winning. And so, Demarcus, I'm sure you're going to be a great player, and you are going to make the Auburn Tigers very good. You're the first 5-star recruit that Hugh Freeze has brought in since he has taken the job, last spring. So it's a big recruiting win for Auburn. You look on Auburn social media, and you see the Auburn Tigers basically having an entire team meeting at 4 o'clock yesterday. Hugh Freeze live streaming the commitment. What would Auburn have done? What would Auburn have done if he whipped out and said, I'm going to Alabama? Very odd for Hugh Freeze. Now, obviously, have insider information. You know that they're going to pick Auburn. He opens up, he cuts the cake, and it's orange and blue, that sort of thing. So, obviously, the decision was made before yesterday. You got to set up the cake order. You got to set up all the decorations, this, that, or the other. So, Hugh Freeze knew that he was going to get Demarcus Riddick. But it's just very strange. I think, Coach Saban, obviously the master of recruiting, Kirby Smart, right there on his heels. But we're not going to have a team meeting. We're not going to have a team meeting. Hey, guys, let's get all 85 guys together and watch this high schooler commit, whether he's going to come to Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, wherever the case may be. No. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart know that the program is much, much bigger than just one player. So while Hugh Freeze did celebrate yesterday and the Auburn Tigers football team exploded after he put on the hat, Demarcus Riddick, I hope the situation works out well for you. I hope that you end up having your fun, enjoying your time over in West Georgia. But I don't know that Alabama's too worried. I don't know that Alabama is missing too much now that Demarcus Riddick is off the board. I think that what you're going to see is a huge, huge push for Mr. Edric Hill. Edric Hill right there out of Buford High School. Edric Houston out of Buford High School. Right there, 5-star player. He's right there mixing it up with Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. Edric Houston, can you get him to the Crimson Tide Cookout this weekend? Essentially, all reports are that he is planning on coming to Crimson Tide Cookout this weekend. But, every big college is having their final recruiting weekend of the year. Ohio State wants him on campus. Georgia wants him on campus. And he is really that last 5-star defensive lineman edge rusher. If you pull in Edric Houston and you pair him up with Sterling Dixon, who's already committed to Alabama, then I think you pretty much nailed an edge class. Sorry, Demarcus Riddick. I know that you're a highly thought of player. I don't know if you're hungry enough for this level, my man. I don't want to insinuate anything about the Chilton County Tigers, but y'all were 4-6 last year. Surely any team that has a 5-star prospect should be having a winning season. I understand the challenges of Clanton, Alabama, very small town, very few resources. But if you've got a 5-star prospect on your team, you got to at least go 500. I wonder, if Mr. Demarcus Riddick really did find his true fit with the Auburn Tigers and everything really will work out well for everyone. Alabama will pivot and scoop up Edric Houston. Georgia ended up getting a linebacker from Texas earlier in the week, the number one inside linebacker in the country. So Georgia's just fine. Obviously, we don't care about Georgia. We're chasing them down, the 2-time national champions. But everybody, it's going to work out for everybody. And it worked out for myself and Wyatt Fulton yesterday, heading out to the Peach Park. Had some homemade peach ice cream from Chilton County. It was beautiful. Thank you so much for putting us on yesterday. Appreciate everybody watching us on BamaCentral.com. Now, interesting little tidbit. There was several layers of fallout from Demarcus Riddick's commitment. Obviously, we just hit the Alabama pivot to Edric Houston, but a little cause for concern for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You see our man Perry Thompson go on to social media. Golly, you got Perry Thompson on flip watch every single second. Perry Thompson going on social media and essentially giving Demarcus Riddick the thumbs up, giving Demarcus Riddick the high five, the smiley face, whatever the emoji was. But it was a post on his Instagram. You guys need to be following Perry Thompson on his Instagram for all of his kind of tidbits. Now I wonder. Part of me thinks that Perry Thompson likes the attention. Part of me thinks that he likes messing with the Alabama contingent and the Auburn contingent, staying in kind of the spotlight. Now, Perry Thompson is a huge target. Will he be at Big Cat Weekend this weekend at Auburn, or will he go to the Crimson Tide Cookout? Really, wherever he goes, I think you're going to see him end up playing for that school. Yes, he's committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you want to see him stay committed, him and Rico Scott as your pair of wide receivers, because if you lose Perry Thompson, Amari Jefferson next week, who's making his announcement now on August 5th, becomes a huge target. And Amari Jefferson is basically in Tennessee's pocket right now. I believe, Amari Jefferson is loyal to Tennessee based off the baseball scholarship that was offered to him. I think that he wants to try playing both sports in college. Amari, that's not going to work out for you, brother. It very, very rarely works out playing SEC baseball and football. You're going to have to pick or choose. But you lose Perry Thompson to Auburn, you lose one of your five-star wide receivers. You got to go out and replace him. And if Amari Jefferson is going to end up at Tennessee, and you're starting to run out of prospects. You're starting to run out of options. Now, obviously, Alabama in the 2025 class, the class right after it, has two absolute superstars. Probably, honestly, no disrespect to you, Perry Thompson and Rico Scott. But I think I'd trade Ryan Williams and Jamie French right now for that pair. So, Alabama, it's not doom and gloom. If Perry Thompson ends up at Auburn, of course, Hugh Freeze is going to get in there. Mr. Yellowwood, Mr. Tim Cook, Mr. Auburn is going to get in there and use NIL to their advantage. Everybody on the family, you wouldn't understand. It's Auburn down here. They're going to use Yellowwood, and I'm sure you're going to see Demarcus Riddick in a Yellowwood commercial very, very soon. And look, everybody's using NIL. Auburn's going to get a couple. At this point, 16, 17 years into Nick Saban's tenure, you don't worry about the guys you lose. You basically focus and celebrate the guys that you get. So, Demarcus, good luck for you, sir. We will be against you in the Iron Bowl for the next 3 to 5 years, unless you hit the transfer portal. We'll be against you in the Iron Bowl. But other than that, we'll pull for our in-state players. So what are we going to do next? You might have heard the L train right behind me. I am not in Tuscaloosa today. I am up in Chicago, Illinois. Why? Because my boss, Chris Walsh, wrote right here the Chicago Bears preview on BamaCentral.com. And so I felt like because we put out the Chicago Bears preview today on BamaCentral.com, I got to get up to Chicago, try to get into training camp. Training camp opened yesterday right here at Hallis Hall. We'll try to get over there for tomorrow to see if we can sneak into practice, see Eddie Jackson, see Terrell Lewis, and see Alex Leatherwood. We'll have a little quick talk on the Bears as they are our featured team on BamaCentral.com today. Very convenient for me. Well done, Chris Walsh. Look, you're looking at the Chicago Bears, and if you don't care about the Bears, no problem. Hit the fast forward like 10 times, and we'll be done, and we'll move on to the next topic. But we're highlighting all of the NFL teams as we are, 4 weeks away from the start of the NFL season. September 10th, I believe, is the first game for the NFL season. Obviously, the Bears are hosting the Green Bay Packers. Make me throw up all over my screen. But Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers for the season opener, and we are highlighting each and every NFL team on BamaCentral.com and the Alabama connections. Make sure you look. Yesterday was the Carolina Panthers. It took Bryce Young all of half a practice to earn quarterback number one role, the quarterback run role from Frank Reich. He's halfway through the practice and dropping dimes to Adam Thielen, and he's already been named the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. But that was yesterday's focus on BamaCentral.com. Today's focus on BamaCentral.com are my Chicago Bears. And we have 3 Alabama connections currently on the roster. One, you all know and love, Eddie Jackson, Bo Jack. He is back there manning the defensive backfield for the Chicago Bears. And Bo Jack has been pretty vocal this offseason saying he wants to turn in the best Bears safety season ever. Whew. Be still my beating heart, Eddie Jackson. I think that that would be an amazing thing. It would obviously turn into a successful season for our Bears. But Eddie Jackson, you're going to have to go back and beat your 2018 season, where I believe you turned in 3 defensive touchdowns and had 6 or 7 turnovers. But I think you can do it this year with Jaquan Brisker and company playing next to you. Jaquan Brisker, strong safety from Penn State. You have Jalen Johnson. You have Kyler Gordon from Washington and Tyreek Stevenson from Miami, all in the defensive backfield. Where's Jalen Johnson from? Oregon State? No. I'll have to remember that. Brain fart on Jalen Johnson, what school he went to. But look, the defensive backfield for the Bears is going to be very, very good. Now, the run defense, not so good. Where you got some questions, where you have some issues, are the other 2 connections, the other 2 Alabama connections, Alex Leatherwood and Terrell Lewis. Alex Leatherwood, you all know, first-round draft pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, and Terrell Lewis was, a 4th-round draft pick? 4th or 5th-round draft pick by the Los Angeles Rams. Both guys are basically discarded from their original teams, and they're trying to make the roster. They're trying to hang on in the NFL. Alex Leatherwood, the offensive line has been vastly retooled here in Chicago, and you can basically be the 6th or 7th guy if you wanted to do that. If you have improved this offseason, if you've improved your strength, improved your agility a little bit, if you've understood the system, if you get bleeping nasty. That's going to be the code word for the Chicago Bears offensive line this year. Bleeping nasty. I heard Ryan Poles talking on the radio as I'm driving into Chicago, describing new first-round draft pick Darnell Wright as a prick. And he said all offensive linemen have to be that way. So Alex Leatherwood, take that adjective and implement it into your game over training camp. And just, look, I would love it if 3 Alabama players ended up on the active 53-man roster. I think it's going to be a huge challenge, though, for Alex Leatherwood to make the roster. Now, the other side, defensively, Terrell Lewis. Look, Terrell Lewis is everything you ever wanted out of an edge rusher on paper. You look at him, he's 6'4". His arms are longer than, are incredible. His arms hang down to his ankles. He's got length. He's got every bit of physical tools that you would want from an outside linebacker, from an edge rusher. Terrell Lewis just hasn't really put it together. And you guys know this and remember this from his days at Alabama. Obviously having a huge game against Tennessee in his final year, 3 sacks in that game. Terrell Lewis basically was able to flip the switch on and off at his will. And Terrell Lewis, it's going to be up to you to flip your switch on and keep it on at Chicago Bears training camp. As the roster, look, edge rusher, our Bears are terrible at edge rusher. It's wide open for you. You could just have a good 2 weeks of practice and make the roster because the defensive line and the edge rushers for our Bears are terrible. So Terrell Lewis, look, a wide open room, a wide open floor, wide open space for you to make the roster and make an impact in Chicago. Have a resurgence, make yourself some money. Look, you should be in the league, Terrell Lewis, for 10 years, cashing checks, rushing the passer, because you have all the tools to be able to do it. Keep your motor running, my man, and impress for my Chicago Bears. I will keep our program rolling. We'll keep our program rolling with a little bit of PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck, you guys know and love him, or you hate him, row the boat from the Minnesota coach, is now reported on, you can read it on frontofficesports.com. Frontofficesports.com, the headline of the article, former players and staff reveal troubling allegations of toxic culture under PJ Fleck. And look, you go back 3 weeks ago to the Northwestern case, and you're starting to see a bit of a trend, a bit of a problem, a bit of an issue with anonymous sources. Now, look, the Northwestern case, I think, was well proven. I think the Northwestern allegations and incidents were heinous. Honestly, you can initiate new players into your team without sexually degrading them. That's probably the nicest way for me to put it. And you guys can read about all the Northwestern allegations that are publicized from the Northwestern student newspaper. Good on them. Great student journalists. But oppositely, it feels like front office sports. It feels like front office sports and AJ Perez are trying to capitalize on a bit of a moment, on a bit of a gotcha moment. And PJ Fleck is his target. Now, PJ Fleck has been at Minnesota for 6 seasons, and you all know him from his time at Western Michigan, and he moves to Minnesota. He's had a couple successful seasons, but Minnesota, it's not some football power. PJ Fleck obviously really took the college football by storm with the row the boat mantra and, really taking the paddle out there. I'm sorry. You read through this front office sports article and it's very loose. It's very loose and it's very it's not the gotcha that I think that the front office sports people think that it is. First off, PJ Fleck is condemned in this article because it's people say, oh, he's running a cult. Oh, he's trying to brainwash some of his players. And some of the complaints become he didn't want players to be individuals. He wanted to sacrifice them to think about the team, And I'm sorry, I'm reading this report, and I'm thinking back to my high school days. Remember, average Andy athlete over here, not superstar, not a college athlete ever, but I appreciate my high school football coach for being kind of a hard ass. Really. And I think it's part of my development now. And so, look, you got PJ Fleck essentially saying, oh, give up yourself to the team, be team first, be team oriented, forget about your own needs. Okay, let's see. Here's the quote. He was making us say, forget about yourself as an individual. I was baffled because it's not anything logical. If you forget about yourself, then who are you? Okay, you have two different schools of thought here. First, look, everybody, you need to be true to yourself. Absolutely, you do. And you hope that you're true to yourself in your own personal lives, at your work, wherever you are. But if you're a part of a team, if you're part of a football team, if you're part of an athletic team, there becomes a little bit of a willingness to sacrifice yourself for the greater good of the team. Now, if you want to be an individual, go play tennis. If you want to be an individual, wrestle. If you want to be an individual, what are the other great individual sports? You can go to be in track and field and sprint around the track all by yourself. That's great. You can play golf all by yourself. No teams there. But if you choose to play a team sport, and it is a choice, you don't have to play football. No one has to play basketball or baseball or hockey or any of those sports. You don't have to participate in team sports. But if you're going to participate at the college level on a college scholarship, then you have to, give it up a little bit for the entirety of the team. PJ Fleck, the coach, has 85 scholarship players, 125 players on his roster. That's what? 25 and 15 is 40 walk-ons to maintain and look after. You've got to die a little bit to yourself. Now, of course, you have to maintain your individuality a little bit here and there. And of course, if things are crossing the line, you want to speak up for that. But if you're trying to give it up for the team, we're all going to run an extra 200, we're all going to run extra sprints together. It's just basic team sports. It's unbelievable. Now, you've got a couple issues in this article that do seem questionable. You're reading about a Fleck bank where PJ Fleck was basically giving credit to players who are doing community service, who are making plays, who are making good grades, who are participating in the church services, who are being active in the community. And it seems like if you were doing these positive things, you got a little bit of a pass on some negative things. There's talk of drug tests that were overlooked, positive drug tests that were overlooked because of credit in the Fleck bank. So, I don't know. It sounds like PJ Fleck is just trying to balance, okay, I want to encourage guys to do really good stuff and on and off the field and be good people. And if you make a mistake by failing a drug test, marijuana, whatever the case may be, or whatever drug that they're into, like sometimes as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, the best course of action is to, pull them aside, have a little bit of a one-on-one. Hey, buddy, are you feeling okay? Now, you get into later in the article, PJ Fleck wanted everybody to answer, hey, how are you doing today? I'm elite was the answer. He wanted to make that the team mantra. I'm elite. Hey, listener, how are you doing today? And he wanted everybody to respond, I am elite. Now, I'll be honest, I don't feel elite every day. I don't. But you gotta there's a little bit of an attitude of fake it till you make it. There's a little bit of an attitude of, Joe, I'm not on ESPN right now. I'm not, Pat McAfee, #1 show on YouTube. But there's a little bit of fake it till you make it. I'm going to believe that I'm talented enough to be hanging out right there with Pat McAfee. One day, myself and Pat McAfee, myself and Dan Levitard, myself and everybody who was doing this game at a high level. There's got to be a little bit of fake it till you make it. Now, of course, there's got to be room for, hey, I'm really not doing okay, coach. And it sounds like there was room in this article. It talks about encouraging players to go see counselors, mental health counselors. And the anonymous sources, the anonymous players say, "Oh, we didn't have time. We didn't have time to do that." I'm sorry. At some point, look, I'm all about getting a story right, and I'm all about uncovering nefarious activities. I am. I think that you know, college sports needs to be on the up and up, and players and coaches, everybody needs to be. You have that level of trust. I'm going to take care of you. You take care of me. We're all working for the same goal: wins and degrees, and and big money and notoriety, all kinds of good things, national championships. I'm sorry. If you're at Minnesota, you gotta have to fake it till you make it. You're gonna have to, die to self a little bit. You're gonna have to work very hard. There's extra aspects in this article that PJ Fleck would use physical feats, or you use physical tasks to punish players. Meaning you're gonna run, you'll run sprints, or you run stadium stairs, or you run hills, or whatever the case may be. You do bear crawls. One of the pieces says, I did bear crawls for 200 yards. Let me find that quote. Bear crawl, 400-yard bear crawls on hands and knees, moving up and down the practice field, or having to do burpees until you throw up. The second player told Front Office Sports. I'm sorry, if you have never competed in athletics, if you have never worked yourself out to a point where you're throwing up, then you haven't worked hard enough. I'm going to go back to my average Andy days and as a high school athlete. I can remember a handful of workouts where our coach pushed us to the point of, oh my gosh, I am throwing up. I have lost my breakfast. Did my coach hate me? Was my coach trying to kill me? No, he's trying to push me to my limits. He's trying to push me to my limits to one, if it's a punishment, as is alluded to in the article, so that you don't do whatever action got you punished, whether you're late for a team meeting, whether you didn't go to class, whether you failed a drug test, whatever the case may be, whether you missed an assignment on the football field. The punishment is supposed to suck enough to where you don't do the crime again. Come on, this is like basic 101. And then on the flip side, if it's just working out, if it's just preparing for the season, Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant, I want to push my players harder in the practice than it is in a game. Because if a player is going to quit, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but if a player is going to quit, I want him to quit in practice and not in the game. Coach Bryant 101. So this is just sounds like a load of hooey, in my opinion, from Front Office Sports. And usually I like Front Office Sports. Usually they do a very good job. They're talking about, it goes on to talk about, a report calls the Minnesota athletic director to develop better policies for oxygen deprivation training, massage therapy, and develop formal processes for education and compliance analysis regarding student-athlete health and safety. Okay, there's some aspects of this article that you do need to have. You do need to have proper medical care out of there, and you do need to have all your coaches, CPR certified. You do need to have all your coaches adequately educated in, this player is beyond I'm pushing him too far and into danger. So look, Front Office Sports, this seems like a big gotcha article from about PJ Fleck, but it's all going to result in nothing. He's still going to coach at Minnesota. Now, look, why do we care about Minnesota? They're going to be, bottom tier of the Big Ten forever. PJ Fleck seems like a hardworking guy. He seems like he's got a lot of, I think, good things going on for him, but you're coaching at Minnesota. You're not coaching at Ohio State. You got to get out of there, get to a place that has better resources and better recruiting lanes for you to find more success. So, look, PJ Fleck, I think this article is a bunch of hooey, and honestly, it's got me a little bit like we need to be careful with anonymous sources. We do. I think they did a good job with the Northwestern case, and it sounds like Northwestern has a community-wide problem, not just the football team, but you've got issues with baseball, and I believe you've got issues with volleyball that are coming out, being reported throughout the summer by the Northwestern student newspaper, and good on them. All right, so where are we at for the rest of our day? We're at right at 30 minutes, and we need to kind of round this bad boy out because I'm going to get to see Chicago just a little bit. We're going to try to get to Bears camp tomorrow, see if we can't see Eddie Jackson, Terrell Lewis, and Alex Leatherwood. I encourage you guys all to follow us at BamaCentral. You can follow me at Joe Gaither6. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon. All right, let's finish this up with just quick NFL notes because we did have NFL training camp open yesterday across the league. One, got to give a huge shout out to John Mechie. John Mechie returning from his leukemia battle opens up training camp with the Houston Texans. And John Mechie, you're probably going to be the wide receiver one for Houston. And good God, the CJ Stroud needs you. So just on a personal note, on a human level, celebrating a guy getting past a leukemia diagnosis. Obviously, you get the best medical care in the NFL. You do. But you still got to get out and beat the disease, and you still got to get out and handle all the medications and all the treatments. And good on you, John Mechie, for doing that. We look forward to seeing you with the Houston Texans and seeing what you can do. You're going to be wide receiver one. I think you're looking like a sneaky fantasy football play. People are going to forget about John Mechie when they're in their redraft leagues. So you're going to get into that 7th, 8th round. You're going to be thinking about, who do I want for upside? Who can I go after that might help me win a league late in the year? John Mechie is going to be that guy because I think he's going to be wide receiver one for the Houston Texans. And, after he gets some rhythm with CJ Stroud, you get that 7th, 8th game under their belt, I think he's going to be putting up some pretty nice fantasy football numbers. Speaking of fantasy football, let's talk about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley back on the practice field after serving a 1-year suspension. 1-year suspension. You all remember he placed a bet on NFL games and was suspended for 1 year. Calvin Ridley coming out yesterday saying, I'm here to get my name back. And I'm sorry, you see those you see these clips in practice from yesterday. He's flying all over the place. He's making one-handed grabs. He's jumping over defensive backs. Look, you want to win your leagues this year, Calvin Ridley might be that guy. Probably going to be, it might be a top 10 wide receiver play throughout the year. And great to see Calvin Ridley. Obviously, Atlanta kicked him to the curb after the 1-year suspension. They traded him for like a bag of peanuts. Jacksonville becomes the recipient and really the benefactor. Trevor Lawrence and his beautiful hair going to be lighting it up with Calvin Ridley this season. 2 more notes on the NFL as we kind of round out our program today. If you didn't see it, you can look out on roll call right there on BamaCentral.com, right there in the bottom right corner. Today's roll call was written by Wyatt Fulton, and he highlights my man Tua Tagovailoa's tattoo. All right, I don't care if you guys are pro or con tattoos. Tua Tagovailoa has this sick arm sleeve, Samoan arm sleeve, all the way down his right arm, and he says it is an ode, or he says it's representative of his new son, the son that was born last year. The son Ace is what he called him. I don't know if that's his official first name or if it was a nickname. But he said he sat there 3 days, 3 days and 4 sessions it took to complete the arm sleeve. Tua Tagovailoa really rocking. Looks like, honestly, you look like The Rock. You look like Roman Reigns. You look like really leaning into your Samoan culture, and I love it. It looks great on you, and I hope that you have a great season this year. Tua Tagovailoa rocking a brand new tattoo yesterday, showing it off in front of everybody at Dolphins camp, and saying that it is for his son, his new son, now 1 year old. Last football note for the day, and I'm going to round it out right here with, what am I going to round it out with? Let's round it out with Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to be under the microscope this year, big time. And I think a lot of the New England Patriots, look, you're going to get huge scrutiny for all 4 Alabama quarterbacks: Bryce Young, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. Mac's going to be under the most pressure because Bill Belichick doesn't play around. The problem is Bill Belichick didn't give him any help. You're going to be throwing to Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker, the decrepit Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry. Look, New England doesn't have a running back either. Sure, they got Bill O'Brien, and I know all you Alabama fans just love that. Well, we do love him departing Tuscaloosa, absolutely. But he's, a lot of the New England fans who didn't really pay attention to the Alabama offense over the last 2 years think that he's going to fix everything. Why? Because it's not Matt Patricia. It's not a defensive coordinator calling the plays. It's not Joe Judge, a special teams coordinator, calling the plays. I don't quite know. I think the Patriots are looking at a last place finish in the AFC East. You see Aaron Rodgers yesterday giving the Jets $35 million worth of space, worth of inventory to go spend. And then boom, today, Dalvin Cook is in New York visiting the New York Jets. So look, the Jets are loaded. The Bills are loaded. The Dolphins are loaded. I'm sorry, Mac Jones, you're looking at a last place finish in the AFC East. And if you followed my career at all, you know I'll finally be vindicated on the Mac Jones being the least talented of the four big Alabama quarterbacks. I know that gets a lot of attention every single time I lean into it. I know Mac Jones had a great 2020 season, led Alabama to a national championship, and you cannot ever take that away from him. Just as a quarterback, he's just not my favorite, not my style. And so I think he's in for a very difficult year. Yes, you got a new play caller, and maybe that will help you a little bit, but the talent around you is still not very good up there in New England. So that's going to do it for our program today. We'll wrap it up right here. We want to thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, everybody watching us or listening to us on Amazon, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. Go tell a friend about the program, The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. You can tell them how big of a buffoon I am, or just talk about all our great recruiting nuggets and news that we always bring. We're looking to catch up with a couple more recruits in the next week. Casey Poe told me he'd jump on the show, but he's at church camp at the moment. So Casey, enjoy church camp. We've talked to Anderson Green, the Northridge punter, just a little bit. We'll try to get him on the show as well. Obviously, we want to we'll chase some of the other guys that we haven't had on. Caleb Oldham, Zabian Brown come to mind. Those guys come to mind. So we'll try to get as many recruits on as possible. Oh, here's how I'll finish it, because I want to get Cannon Claycomb on the program. I want to get Cannon Claycomb on the program, and you guys are probably like, that's not a football player. Who the heck is that? Cannon Claycomb is the is the leader of the Alabama golf team coming into this coming season. And Cannon Claycomb got preseason ranked 14th in the country, day before by PGA Tour College. They basically go out there and rank the golfers. Obviously, Gordon Sargent ranked very, very high from Vanderbilt. But our man, Cannon Claycomb, ranked 14th. I do have a contact for him. I'm going to try to bring him on the show because I've heard he's a riot. I've heard he's a fun guy, and I want to talk about golf. I want to see if he can give me any tips because I stink at it. I love it, but I stink at it. We will venture out to see if we can get Cannon Claycomb on the show in the next day or so. So tune in to us tomorrow. We'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel, right here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, right there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. For you, the listener, I'm Joe Gaither, my boss at Chris Walsh, at Writing Walsh on the Twitter machine. You can follow BamaCentral at BamaCentral. Keep up with all our great work. Read BamaCentral.com. You can check out all our profiles. Jaron Stevenson on the cover right now. The Bears profile on the right-hand side. Roll call at the bottom. Everything you need to know about Alabama right there on BamaCentral.com. So that's going to do it for our program today. We'll be back tomorrow for another edition of The Joe Gaither Show on